We, DC School of Management and Technology, have great pleasure in inviting you and welcoming you to the formal inauguration of the introduction of the second Management Meet Luminance 06. Most of you are possibly aware, DC School of Management and Technology is an MBA college having fully MBA course started in 2002 September. 3 batches have passed out, 2 batches 05, admission and 06 are currently here. This is a fully residential business school where we have currently 120 plus 120, 240 students. You as management students know MBA course is different from any other course of education. A program which is different from the degree courses which you have gone through all around, where learning shifts from the teachers to the students. All along, teachers have been teaching in the classrooms. In the MBA education, the focus is on learning on the student. So that's why we call it a student-centered learning process. This process has 3-4 different components. You have the classroom learning, which contributes to only about 25% of your learning. You have used the internet, the library, and peer learning is another part. As a part of the peer learning process, institutions interact. They develop programs like this management meets, where occasions of coming and meeting other institutions. So use these opportunities for understanding different people, how they think, how they perceive different things. Also get to have a wider network of friends and learn different methods and teaching practices adopted by other institutions. Hope you will use this opportunity to your development. So I, on behalf of the students, the faculty and staff of this and the management of this school, welcome the participants from all the institutions that have come in the morning, and some more institutions are coming. A hearty welcome to all of you.
Good morning, everybody. Say good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Dear student guests from different institutes in Kerala and also outside Kerala. Dear faculty members from different institutes in Kerala and outside Kerala. My dear team DCNs, or dear DCNs 05 and 06, are the judges who have come from different parts. I am here to formally inaugurate our second management course. Last year it was a huge success. And this year, the participation is almost doubled. And also, we have been able to get at colleges from different parts outside Kerala. So this means we have taken a long stride from last year, and we are progressing ourselves steadily. This is only because of the kind of sincere participation from other management institutes in Kerala and outside Kerala. Any management festival, as Professor Ravi said, is a part of management education. It gives you an opportunity to organize and feel, but what other skills that you develop, or what other things that you assimilate to yourself is more important than anything else. So management festivals naturally give the students of the concerned college the coordinating ability, grantees, what kind of coordinators and express your some kind of energy you want, and then get it done. And only one thing, excellent element comes out of it. So every one of you should be competing with yourself to bring out the best, so that your team wins and performs the best. So make this experience a grand one. After the closure of this ceremony, thank you very much.
The vote of thanks. First of all, let me all welcome all the guests and participants to Luminance 06. We are happy to have such a variety of colleges, cultures and creative people in our campus. The hard work and dedication of my team is what you are going to feel for the next 2 days. We will strive to make your stay a memorable one. Once again, I welcome you all to Luminance 06.
Thank you, Jayachandran.
Good evening to all. Gaining momentum from our maiden management fest, Luminance 05, we are back with Luminance 06, a showground for the congregation of talent. Let's begin with a prayer. I call upon Kavya and Preeti for the same.
Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshal Parabrahma, Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Vidyanāmanarasya rūpamadhikam Prakshannaguptam dhanam Vidyabhudakari yashassukhakari Vidyagurunam guru Vidyabandhujanogamani Vidyaparam Devatam.
It is a premier B school in South India promoted by DC Kerkemuri Foundation and DC Books, which is one of the leading publishing houses in India.
Now I request Professor Thomas Varghese, Director, MBA Program, to deliver the welcome and introductory speech. So please.
Sri Sriram, Sri Ravi DC, Sri Ram Bharat Verma, our principal, participants and team members from various colleges from Kerala and outside the state, representatives from the media, judges, faculty members, staff and students of DC School of Management and Technology, and well-wishers. It's a matter of great pleasure to attend such an august audience of future managers, young aspirants. Nearly 300 of the future destiny makers of India are in front of me. It's a pleasure to welcome them to DC School of Management and Technology. Let me start with introducing Sriram. The most important things that come to my mind is that he is a perpetual student, then an innovator. A product of Loyola College of Madras, he started his career with the famous bookstores Landmark in Madras in 1988. Then he moved to Hyderabad and started the bookstore Walden, and later co-founded retail chain Crossword with Miss Anita in 1992. Incidentally, Miss Anita is his life partner now. While continuing to be an advisor to Crossword, since the last 2 months, he has been heading a consultancy for incubating retail and has co-founded Next Practice Retail. As students of management, we know retail is the in thing, the future. He has been a consistent performer and of many achievements and awards. The marketing superstar of 1994 by Advertising Age International of USA and Indira Super Achiever Award by the Indira Group of Institutions 2004 are worth special mention. He is a guest faculty in prestigious institutions like Indian Institute of Management Ahmedabad and Indian Institute of Management Lucknow. Sir, we have great pleasure in inviting you to our midst. Mr. Shreyans Kumar is a rising star in the political scenario of Kerala and our MLA of Calcutta. More than that, as the marketing director of Madhurabhumi, he has achieved wonderful results in a short period. The dynamic leadership and innovative ideas of Sri Shreyans Kumar has paved the way for tremendous growth in the circulation of Madhurabhumi newspaper as well as its co-publications. And here is a politician with a thinking for progressive Kerala. Let us join in wishing him great future in his political career as well as at the helm of Madhurabhumi. Sir, we welcome you to the function with great gratitude and happiness. We have teams from 22 colleges here with us today that have come from the state of Kerala and outside. young management aspirants, as I mentioned, of today, the ones who are going to decide the destiny of our country. We are honored by the trust and love you have shown by taking the extra efforts to come this faraway place from places like Bangalore and Tamil Nadu. And a special mention of thanks to all of you, and we welcome you with a warm heart to DC School of Management and Technology, and hope you will remember this visit and stay as memorable days of your life. Next. We welcome all judges who have come to adjudge various events of the Mint and look forward to your continued support in the years to come. I also welcome the representatives of the media team who have come to cover and report the events. Let me conclude by welcoming all well-wishers, faculty and staff colleagues of institutions of BCS Math and all those who are associated with this event. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Today, we have witnessed people provoking their might. We heard outbursts of success and wins. We had few climbing up the slopes. As we know, ups and downs can't be separated. The spirit is what it counts. Now, let's watch a small video ad regarding Luminance 06. Sit back and enjoy.
Lighting the lamp. For that, I request Mr. R. Sriram to come over and light the lamp. And I also request Mr. Shreyas Kumar, Mr. Ravi DC, Professor Ramabharata Verma, Professor Thomas Verghese, and student coordinators Neena Pillai and Jayachandran to come on to stage.
Only those who risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Thus said the great poet T.S. Eliot, and I could not agree more with him. Doing so, of course, means often taking the road less traveled, with its terrors and travails, its hardships and loneliness, and ultimately, its magic and meaning. Good evening. It is my pleasure and privilege to be here with you, and I would like to thank Ravi DC and Thomas Verghese for making this possible. I would like to first share a story with you. It may sound familiar. It's about the hare and the tortoise. But I hope most of you haven't heard this version that I'm about to share with you. Once upon a time, a hare and a tortoise had an argument about who was faster. They decided to settle the argument with a race. They agreed on a route and started off the race. The hare shot ahead and ran briskly for some time. Then, seeing that he was far ahead of the tortoise, he thought he could take it easy. He sat under a tree and soon fell asleep. The tortoise, plodding on steadily, overtook him and soon finished the race, emerging as the undisputed champ. The hare woke up and realized he had lost the race. The moral of the story being that slow and steady wins the race. This is the version that all of us have grown up with. But recently, I've heard another version, which I want to share with you. The story continues. The hare, disappointed at losing the race, did some soul searching. He realized that he had lost the race because he had been overconfident. He was careless and lax. And if he had not taken things for granted, there was no way a tortoise could have beaten him. So he challenged the tortoise to another race. The tortoise agreed. This time the hare went all out and ran without stopping from start to finish. As you can expect, he won the race by several miles. The moral of the story being, fast and consistent always beats slow and steady. It's good to be slow and steady, but it's far better to be fast and reliable. The story doesn't end here. The tortoise now did some thinking and realized that there was no way he could beat the hare in a race that was benefiting the hare. He thought for a while and then challenged the hare to another race, but on a different route. The hare agreed. They started off, and in keeping with his self-made commitment to be consistently fast, the hare took off at top speed. Then he came to a broad river, which was part of the course, and there he was stumped. He sat there wondering what to do. In the meantime, the tortoise trundled along, passed him, got into the river, swam across to the other side, continued walking, and finished the race, winning it. Moral of the story being, first identify your core competence, and then change the playing field to suit your core competency. Working to your strengths will not only get you noticed, but also create opportunities for growth and advancement. The story still has not ended. The hare and the tortoise, by this time, had become good friends, and they did some thinking together. Both realized that the last race could have been run much better. So they decided to do the last race again, but to run as a team this time. They started off, and this time, the hare took the tortoise on its back and ran all the way to the river bank. There, the tortoise took over and swam across with the hare on its back. On the opposite bank, the hare again carried the tortoise, and they reached the finishing line together much faster than either of them could have done so. They both felt a greater sense of satisfaction they hadn't felt before on individually winning the race. Moral of the story being, it's good to be individually brilliant and to have strong core competencies. But unless you're able to work in a team and harness each other's core competencies, you will always perform below par, because there will always be a situation where you will not be adequately equipped and you will do poorly while somebody else does better than you. Teamwork is mainly about situational leadership, letting the person with the relevant core competency for a situation take leadership for that situation. There are some more lessons to be learned from this story. Note that neither the hare nor the tortoise gave up after failures. The hare decided to work harder and put in more effort after his failure. The tortoise changed his strategy because he was already working as hard as he could. In life, when faced with failure, sometimes it's appropriate to work harder and put in more effort. Sometimes it's appropriate to change strategy and try something different. And sometimes it's appropriate to do both. The hare and the tortoise learnt another vital lesson. When we stop competing against a rival and instead start competing against the situation, we perform far better. There is perhaps no better description of wisdom and enlightenment, of force and strength, than in the Tao Te Ching. And I'm quoting from it, knowing others is wisdom. Knowing the self is enlightenment. Mastering others requires force. Mastering the self needs strength. This lesson is hard won, if at all. For me, every day is a lesson. I live and learn. I am the sum of all that I've read and lived. All of us experience life every day. Those who reflect and learn from these varied experiences and update themselves accordingly are more likely to succeed. I helped found Crossword with my colleague Anita, whose husband I now am. And our foundation consisted of 3 things: a dream, a belief, and passion. The dream was to establish world-class bookstores, though we had never traveled abroad. The belief was that books are important, that books change lives, and our passion was for the magic of books, which we wanted to share with others. I have since learned that many successful human initiatives, both in business and in life, have in common such ingredients. Howard Schultz, the chairman of Starbucks, has eloquently conveyed what one needs to do in order to succeed in any endeavor. And it is very true of my life and what I have learned so far. Howard Schultz says, care more than others, think wise. Care more than others, think wise. Risk more than others, think safe. Dream more than others, think practical. Expect more than others, think possible. These are simple words, beautifully put, and it takes a lifetime to understand what he's talking about. If you can understand this message early in your life, you will certainly succeed far quicker, and you will do far better in your life. I would like to end with the words of another leader, Subrata Bagchi, Chief Operating Officer, Mindtree Consulting. He says, success to me is about vision. It's about the ability to rise above the immediacy of pain. It's about imagination. It's about sensitivity to small people. It's about building inclusion. It's about connectedness to a larger world outside. It's about personal tenacity. It's about giving back more to life than you take out of it. It's about creating extraordinary success with ordinary lives. Thank you very much, and I wish you good luck and Godspeed. I wish you the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for providing a wonderful story which has a lot of message in it. Mr. M.V. Sriyam Kumar is at present the Director Marketing, Madhrubhumi. He is the MLA of Calcutta. To deliver the keynote address, I invite you, sir. Please.
Good evening, friends. I realized I have become a bore after entering politics. After hearing Mr. Srinivas, and what I'm going to talk to you about now is completely, it's quite serious and a little boring for you, so please pardon me. It's indeed a privilege for me to be invited on the occasion of Luminance 2006, the management meet of DC School of Management and Technology. I have great admiration for Ravi's business acumen in building on the foundation laid by his father, the late DC Kerkemuri, the father of Malayalam publishing also. But I believe that nourishing this institution is his enduring tribute to the legacy of his father. It is indeed a noble mission. It is definitely a pleasure to address young minds in such salubrious environs. In such pleasant places, it might seem inappropriate to hold forth on the lurking dangers in the corporate minefield, which is exactly what I'm proposed to do. I will confine myself to the values of corporate foresight and what it holds to my chosen terrain of media. The enduring debate about business role in society is caught between two contrasting and tied ideological positions. On one side are those who argue that, to borrow Milton Friedman's phrase, the business of business is business. This belief is entrenched in Anglo-Saxon economies. On this view, social issues are peripheral to the challenge of corporate management. The only legitimate aim of business is to create shareholders' value. Opposing this are the proponents of corporate social responsibility, or CSR. It is a rapidly growing, rather fuzzy movement embraces both companies that claim already to practice CSR and skeptical campaign groups arguing they need to go further in mitigating corporate social impacts. As other regions of the world, parts of continental and central Europe and Asia adopt the Anglo-Saxon shareholder value model. This debate has increasingly taken on global significance. Both perspectives obscure in different ways the significance of social issues to business success. The challenge is to find the golden mean for companies to incorporate an awareness socio-political issue more systematically into their core strategic decision-making processes. Companies must see the social and political dimensions not just as risk, areas of damage limitation, but also as opportunities. They should scan the horizon of emerging trends and integrate their responses across the organization and effect coherent responses rather than piecemeal. Business has never been insulated from social or political expectations. What's different today is the intensifying pressure and the growing complexity of the forces, the speed with which they change, and the ability of the activist to mobilize public opinion. Yet, even as a social contract evolves, the typical corporate response appears to have become increasingly flat-footed. This social contract is by nature a fluid one. Companies have always had a contract with society. The contract embraces not just direct stakeholders such as consumers, employees, regulators, and shareholders, but also an increasingly a broader set of stakeholders such as communities where companies operate, the media, and the non-profit sectors. Part of this is formalized in laws and regulations, and violating them has legal implications. Part is semi-formal. Stakeholders' implicit expectations, which, if ignored, can bring swift retributions. Most multinationals in the US, for example, are expected to maintain at least some labor standards along their global supply chain, even if they aren't legally required to do so. Violations of the semi-formal contractual obligation can seriously dent a company's reputation. It can also inhibit consumers' demand for its products, like in the case of Nike. Near whom we have the example of fireworks industry in Shivakashi. Exports catering to the demands of American Independence Day celebrations were hit on charges of employing child labor. Industries have to adopt Social Accountability 8000, or called SA 8000, a code of conduct verification and a factory certification program that began in October 1997. It has been developed by Social Accountability International. SA 8000 is promoted as a voluntary universal standard for companies interested in auditing and certifying labor practices in their facilities and those of their suppliers and vendors. It is designed for independent third-party certification. It is based on the principle of international human rights norms as described in International Labour Organization conventions, the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Child, and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It measures the performance of the companies in 8 key areas: child labor, forced labor, health and safety, free association and collective bargaining, discrimination, disciplinary practice, working hours, and compensation. SA 8000 also provides for a social accountability management system to demonstrate ongoing conformances with standards. Similarly, the triple bottom line concept focuses corporations not just on economic value they add, but also the environmental and social value they add and destroy. At its narrowest, the term triple bottom line is used as a framework for measuring and reporting corporate performance against economic, social, and environmental parameters. More challenging are the frontier issues that have not yet entered the formal or semi-formal contract, but could, over time, become social expectations. This is something that business might not even realize to their peril. Take obesity. It is widely believed that the responsibility for avoiding it lay on individuals. That's the reason even the reason why I'm fat, who choose what they eat, and not with the companies that make fattening products and sell with eluding marketing techniques. But the blame is shifting. Food companies are being forced to modify the fat and sugar content of their products. The unfolding scenario is such that lawmakers or regulators will step in and formalize social expectation by imposing new legal restraints. Similarly, debate around tobacco shifted the responsibility from individuals to an industry perceived to be aggressively marketing addictive products. Compensation offered to aggrieved consumers have crippled the American tobacco industry. Here, we have to command the foresight of ITC. They have the vision to proliferate, diversify is a milder term, into totally unrelated sectors like food, agarbattis, matchboxes. The common ingredient linking their expansion were their flexing the distribution muscle. Affirmative action or mandatory reservation of jobs in private sector poses a big challenge, which most of the corporates are going to face. A truly enlightened management will have to devise a way to implement this instead of trying to take on the government. There can only be one victor in such needless confrontation, the government. Similarly, in my own area of business, the implication of the Provision of Child Labour, Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, effective as of October 11, 2006, has not been fully grasped. The media reported this ban on employment of children labour below the age of 14 as domestic help, and in dhabas, restaurants, hotels and hospitality sectors as another bit of news. But did we realize that it might be applicable to newspaper delivery boys who are school-going kids? So what is the solution for this? Companies are often on the defensive because CEOs and others in the top team find it difficult to wield what Howard's Joseph Nye calls soft forms of power, or to deal with players such as NGOs that trade in emotional arguments. By comparison with the hard skills and in-depth knowledge of most senior executives, socio-political issues require statesmanship, the fostering of relationship with stakeholders, and the nurturing of assets that could be called reputational. People always identify with underdogs. Attitudes in the world are shifting, colored by tension between tradition and modernity, measuring meaning and materialism, consumption and resource stewardship, and the state duty and individualism. The principle of environmental stewardship creates demand for hybrid cars, cashed in by Toyota and Honda through Prius and Civic, respectively. The Kyoto Protocol requires the developed nation to reduce greenhouse gas emission at least 5% from 90 level during the commitment period of 08 to 12. This again is an opportunity for our companies and corporates, since encashing carbon credit will lead to foreign exchange realization. Carbon emission reduction, or CER, accumulated by a company can be sold to another company abroad. Every ton of carbon dioxide emission reduction through either consuming lesser or using cleaner fuel amounts to 1 CER, worth 12 euros. According to Ernst & Young, Indian companies have raked in 1,500 crore last year, led by Tamil Nadu Newsprint and Paper Limited and Gujarat Fluorochemicals. The value of the accumulated stock of carbon emission reduction units in India is estimated approximately $1 billion. Only China and Brazil are ahead of India at this point of time in accumulating CERs. Protection of indigenous land and mining rights raises the cost of extraction of minerals. Hindustan Lever's sensitive social antenna led to identifying an opportunity. Their innovative product offering of Wheel detergent brand was a response to an unmet need of lower income consumers here. Similarly, Velvet International triggered off the sachet craze. They beat multinational to mini packaging, which has now swamped almost every category of FMCG. In this background, let us look at how media fares. Social responsibility of the media is mandated all the more when we realize that 80% of the world's GDP belongs to the 1 billion people living in the developed world, and the remaining 20% is shared by the 5 billion people living in developing countries. Inequalities in income distribution, and in access to productive resources Basic social services, opportunities, markets, and information can cause an increased poverty. Those who are part of formal economy generally fall among the haves in the society. They are more likely to earn decent wages, receive job-related benefits, have secure employment contracts, and be covered by labor laws and regulations. In contrast, those in the informal economy are typically among the have-nots. They are often excluded from various legal protection and are unable to access basic benefits or enjoy the fundamental rights granted to those in the formal economy. Since most people work informally, the recent expansion of the informal economy in many countries have major implications for reducing poverty and inequality. Gender dimensions are deeply embedded in observed inequalities. These are persistent gender gaps in access to education, decent employment, and fair and equal remuneration. Women's poorer access to economic and non-economic opportunities often lead to abuse and sexual exploitation. They are also rendered voiceless in issues relating to their own welfare. Only a strong and vibrant media can expose this inequality predicament. Only the media can fuel social changes that such inequitable distribution of resources and wealth endanger. Are we fully equipped to fulfill this role? I believe we are in for a backlash because of a certain false self-perceptions. We should pause and introspect on the attitude of media, since there is a world as described by the journalist, and then there is a real world. Journalists live in a parallel universe. The people they portray, the people actually doing things, increasingly despair of deeply inadequate reporting of their worlds. Journalists do now seem to believe that the person in charge is always wrong. They nourish a culture of contempt, engulfing the whole of public life. They polarize issues. They polarize every issue into an extreme position, which becomes an enemy of understanding the truth of an issue or a policy or a situation. They miss the quiet rhythm of their blameless lives, the small deeds of kindness, the bonds we forge. Using the paint of blood and black, they corrode the society they claim to mirror. Journalists are powerful people, but one of the dangers of power is not so much that it corrupts absolutely, but rather that it can make those who possess it lazy, complacent, and arrogant. The truth is that newspapers matter less than they used to, and less than they think they do, especially in an age of television and internet and other platforms which dispense hard news instantaneously. An even more classic example is provided by mobile phones. The phenomenon of flash crowds or smart mobs mobilized through text messages to assemble at a particular point to protest against some event or policy is testimony to the potency of this medium. Newspapers are being replaced by view papers. Boundary lines between fact and opinion are being obliterated. Stories are spun to fit an agenda, and many are simply made up. Recurring complaints about dumbing down, leading to a race to the bottom, makes a mockery for readers' intelligence. They are more aware, more and informed and critical than we give them credit for. Abusing the sensibility is the sure way to corporate disaster. They see us enjoying privilege built on the patronage of our publications. We should realize that we dispense a role no greater or smaller than any other professional class. Most importantly, we feel that we have a God-ordained right to sit in judgment in society. We should also concede the right to be judged. The day will come soon when, if we do not realize this, our readers will vacate us and migrate to newer platforms of information, which is less opinionated. But the caveat here is that we should not abdicate our role as arbitrators of the greater social cause. Articulating these will always win approval with the people. That and that alone should be the corporate and moral responsibility of a free and fair press in particular and media in general. May I thank all of you for your time and patient hearing.
Thank you, sir, for providing us a wonderful insight about the socio-economic and business condition which is prevailing in India within a short span of time. Now, I request our Chief Facilitator and CEO of DC Group, Mr. Ravi DC, for the felicitation. So, please.
Sri Ram Kumar, Professor Ram Bharat Verma, Professor Thomas Verghese, dear faculty, students from other colleges, and my dear DCN students. I'll not take much of time. In fact, it's a great day of pride for DC SMAT. It's the second luminance we are doing in DC SMAT. And first of all, let me thank you all for coming to this wonderful program. And I'm sure your stay and the participation will be of memorable. Shreyams he is the Director of Marketing with Madhurabhumi. Let me first thank Shreyams also for coming. He is a good friend of mine. He is, in fact, we belong to the same industry in one way. He is also into book publishing. And Shreyams' period has witnessed exponential growth in terms of Madhurabhumi's newspaper as well as periodicals. And Sriram, I've known him for years. Sriram and a good friend of mine. And Sriram, I don't know how to thank him also. I mean, he was in Middle East till last night. He came especially for this program, and he's living back to Bombay tomorrow morning. In fact, he has set wonderful standards and parameters for the retail and the supply chain of books in India. The Crossword presently runs about 38 bookshops across India, and it's one of the largest turnover in terms of by any size, in terms of number of outlets as well as turnover as well. Let me thank them both, because I mean they both are quite busy with their schedules, and they particularly made it a point. In fact, Shreyams has come yesterday. From morning he is here, and he's quite enjoying the place also, I believe. Well, let me thank them first. And let me welcome all of you to this Luminance 2006, and do have a wonderful stay. And I will not welcome my students here, because they are the organizers of this, and in fact, from the fundraising to organizing this event to making it happen, the faculty, students, and other DCNs has made a great effort and hard work. Congratulations to all, and welcome you all. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Now, I request our Principal and Associate Dean, Professor Ramabharata Varma, to address the gathering. Sir, please.
Respected dignitaries on the dais, Mr. R. Sriram, who is a widely known consultant, Mr. Shreyams Kumar, the owner and the marketing director of Madhurabhumi, Mr. Ravi DC, the chief facilitator of DC SMAT, Professor Thomas Varghese, who has been guiding the whole show, Luminance 06. The visiting student participants, or rather guests from different parts of Kerala and outside Kerala, from Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, Team DCNs, DCN 05 and DCN 06, who have been responsible for the whole show. They have been working hard at it for so many months. This is a great moment for DCS MAT for three reasons. One is, this is our second management festival, which has actually proved to be a great leap from the last. From 13 we have grown to more than 20, and the kind of improvement that you see in the quality of programs also is quite encouraging. The second is, this year we have been able to get students from outside the state. It's a small beginning. Next year, we will have 35 to 40 teams, half of it perhaps from the outside the stage. It's a very encouraging sign. Third is that we have been privileged by the visits of so many young people from different management institutes to share their experiences with our students. And these management festivals normally give every student an opportunity to learn a lot of skills that are quite necessary in the real world. And these skills are developed through such kinds of activities, traveling to different places, organizing things, participation, and as I told in the morning, in any competition, you have to compete with yourself, and that is the way in which you have to contribute towards the team. Mr. Sriram opened his speech with a beautiful story. And this story is actually quite symbolic of the life that we are living now, in the sense that you should be fast. At the same time, you should also take care of people who are around you. And only teamwork can make things possible. It's actually a real opening message to all of you, which was actually strengthened by a beautiful speech based upon the social, political, and economic significance of the world as such. And as I believe, today we got two very important messages. One in terms of motivation and the other in terms of the real life that we live from the two guests that have come here. And all the experiences that you get from this particular institute should be carried and spread to different parts of India. And I am sure all the student guests who have come here and all the faculty who have accompanied them will definitely leave this campus with good memories. And I am sure they will come back again and again and again. Their juniors who are in the institutes, they will persuade them to come here in the years to come and make Luminance 6, Luminance 7, Luminance 8 and Luminance 9 and so forth a grand management festival. Thank you again, and I still believe that MBA is not a degree, it is a total experience. Gain the experience, you are a winner. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Now, as a token of our love, we would like to give a memento to Mr. R. Sriram. For this, I invite Professor Ramagardha. Sir, please. Now I request Professor Thomas Verghese to give the memento to Shreyas Kumar. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Now, without our student coordinators, the Luminance 06 would not have been possible. So, I request one of the student coordinator, Ms. Neena Pillai, to give away the word of thanks. Neena, please.
Good evening, everyone. I feel privileged to take this dais on this occasion. Words would be insufficient to thank our honorable guest, Mr. R. Sriram, retail consultant and advisor, Prospered Retail Chain, and Mr. Shreyas Kumar, Director Marketing, Madhubhumi, for taking the trouble to be here on this occasion, traveling these hardships to our college. I'd also like to thank our Chief Facilitator, Mr. Ravi DC, for being with us, keeping apart his busy schedule. Next, I'd like to thank Dr. Manish Stephen for being with us to render his services on this occasion. I'd also like to thank our Principal, Professor Ramabharadavarma, and our Course Director, Professor Thomas Verghese, for giving us their wholehearted support for this program. I'd also like to thank all the media persons who are here to cover our program. Next, I'd like to thank all our friends who have come this long way to our little paradise for giving us their support to make our efforts meaningful. I'd also like to take the privilege to thank our media school friends who are here to give us their possible support in making this event a great success. Next, I'd like to thank the whole of our DCS MAT family members for working hand in hand from the beginning till this moment, bridging away the gaps of inconvenience for all our guests. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank all the other supporting team who are with us on this occasion. All the best, and thank you once again for being here.
Thank you, Ninu.
So, day one has finally come to an end. On behalf of all DCNs, we invite you all for the Cultural Fiesta at 9 p.m. at Whirlpool. Thank you everybody, and do enjoy the night. Thank you once again.